in New York. What appears to be a major police emergency unfolding in London tonight. Details just beginning to come in. Reports of violence in several London locations. You see them there. We do know that President Trump has been briefed on the incidents and is monitoring the situation. In London, Prime Minister Theresa May has also been in contact with security officials. Here's what we know at this hour. An incident happening at the London Bridge, then nearby at a restaurant in Borough Hall, and also a possible third incident at Vauxhall. It is still unclear exactly what has happened, but it comes at a time when European cities are becoming more and more frequent targets for terrorists. And England still reeling from the recent suicide bombing in Manchester just 2 weeks ago. And this just in from our team in London. London Metropolitan Police are asking local radio stations right now to broadcast this message to anyone caught up in any of these incidents to, quote, run, hide, and tell. Let's go to London right now. ABC's Jennifer Eccleston starting us off tonight. Jennifer.
Tom, chaotic and disturbing scenes in 3 central London locations near London Bridge and a second incident at Borough Market, a popular restaurant venue nearby. Police, guns drawn, telling people to get on the ground. There are also reports of a stabbing there with shots fired. And also a possible incident in South London near the Vauxhall area. That's a few miles from London Bridge. Police have confirmed that on London Bridge, a vehicle striking pedestrians. There are reports of injuries, bodies on the ground. The BBC reporting their sources say more than one person has died. Tom?
Like these lot all running, they're still shitting because there's shots getting fired and bang, bang, bang. But we've just been dashed back by the police.
There are people on the ground. Everything looks so awful. So I didn't see anything with my eyes, but my friend said, "Oh, there is a van. There is a van," and this van went into people. And then we saw, I think, 3-4 people lying on the ground. And then the police arrived and the ambulance arrived.
Back here at home, we do know that the NYPD has been monitoring all the situations that is happening there in London, and the president retweeting tonight a news report from the Drudge Report that says fears of a new terror attack after van mows down 20 people on London Bridge. I want to bring in our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, we have seen at least a dozen incidents in the last 2 years happen in European cities all across that continent. What you're seeing tonight, give me your take.
Well, Tom, we've talked to a number of federal law enforcement sources, and as you said, the president has been briefed. The National Security Council is monitoring the situation, as are the relevant components of the FBI and Homeland Security. Right now, the situation, they don't know what this is exactly. The suspicion is that it is terrorism. Again, the suspicion is that. They don't know it for certain. This notion of people using vehicles as low-tech method of terrorism is a huge ongoing issue. Law enforcement bulletins in this country have been going out almost monthly, warning officials here that this is the mode of attack that the terrorists prefer at the moment. Again, they're trying to get additional information. One source said, we're getting out of the way, letting the Brits do their work until they can determine what is going on in what is described as a dangerous and ongoing situation, Tom.
Pierre, I know it's still very early in the night and we're still getting a lot of the information and all this news is still very fresh. But if these 3 incidents are all connected, this would look to be a larger terror plot and slightly different than some of the lone wolf attacks we've seen recently in Europe.
Well, again, we don't know all the details yet, Tom, but clearly the Brits are disturbed and they believe perhaps that they have a cell of people that have been operating in that country. I believe the latest reports that they had at least 500 people that were under surveillance at any different time in Great Britain. So this is an ongoing situation. Again, we don't know precisely what this is yet, but the suspicion is that it's probably going to be terrorism, and law enforcement officials are describing a situation where in Great Britain they have scores and scores of mostly young men who could be potential radicals.
Yeah, I was just outside Borough Market and I just saw suddenly loads of people run away from the market, and there was people lying on the ground, and there was a taxi driver who had his sort of window down. He was really shouting at people to run. We ran for like 100 metres, and then sort of loads of police cars turned up, and there was kind of a period of quite intense gunfire. I hid in a restaurant basement for about an hour, and then we were down there for quite a while. The police told us to get out, and then there was more gunfire, I'd say, pretty much as soon as we left the building. So we've been down there for about another half an hour, and then they've just evacuated us now. So
we saw people running, saying, "Run! You need to run! People are getting stabbed." So we jumped in the nearest car. So, we saw a body on the floor. Lots of people around it. We came up to London Bridge, and then we saw 2 pedestrians on the bridge, and police telling us to run. We need to run to the other side, north of the river.
How many people did you see on the ground?
2. The first one, obviously 3 altogether. And then we saw someone actually covered in blood.
London, where a deadly terror attack has taken place that began on London Bridge and ended in the Borough Market area. These pictures from the Borough Market, where we know there were 3 attackers with knives who got out of the van that initially actually had driven on London Bridge into pedestrians careening through that area, people flying into the air as described by eyewitnesses, and then stabbing some folks inside a restaurant in Borough Market. An eyewitness describing witnessing a woman stabbed in the neck and another individual stabbed in the back. These pictures are extremely disturbing, but you can see just how devastating and how quickly these three attackers operated. In fact, we now have learned from police in the last hour or so when they came out with their statement that these three attackers are dead. They were killed, shot by law enforcement within 8 minutes of the initial call.
And as for the knives themselves, witnesses describe the knives used in these attacks as machetes. Law enforcement has not confirmed that at this point, but large knives in this savage attack. The White House says the president offered his condolences to the British Prime Minister Theresa May. We're told he praised the heroic response of police and other first responders and offered the full support of the United States government in investigating and bringing those responsible for these heinous acts to justice. It does appear that the three people most directly involved with these attacks are dead as of now. Unclear if anyone else was linked to the attack at this time. That is what investigators are on as we speak.
Victims. We don't know anything about the 6 people who were killed, but we also know there are 30 people, according to the officials, who are being treated right now at local hospitals there in London, and more than 80 people who are from the emergency responder department. They all rushed to the scene involved in this incident and trying to make sure that they could save as many of the victims who were possible. One of the victims is an officer who was on duty, one of the first on the scene after he responded to calls of help from the public. We're now learning he received injuries to his head, his face, and his leg, which according to police officials at this time are believed to be serious but not life-threatening. He was stabbed by those individuals who got out of the van after they careened through the people on London Bridge. James Galliano, when it comes to tracking down more information about these men, we know they're all men. We've seen 2 people on the floor, on the ground, with law enforcement over them wearing what appeared to be some kind of suicide vests, and even law enforcement described them as appearing to be explosive vests, but they weren't explosive vests. They were...
Terrorists kill themselves after creating as much carnage and mayhem as they can, or they make a statement or so, they talk to police, they put something out and say, well, this was inspired by al-Baghdadi, or this was inspired by this particular religious zealot, and then they kill themselves, or they die by suicide by cop, or they engage law enforcement and they're just looking to be killed in the end.
Mark, Juliet Kayama was with us as well. Juliet, 3 people now, 3 assailants dead. I don't know whether the terminology matters here, but is it fair to call this a terror cell? And what would the implications there be?
Yeah, I mean, anything more than one, you're going to be worried, obviously, about not just the 3, but any more. Because this wasn't a highly sophisticated attack, all it appears to have taken was a truck rental and the purchase of knives. We just simply don't know at this stage how deep or there's always some information.
We don't know who these people are. We don't know their background. We don't know if they are religious at all. But it's interesting because the Muslim Council of Britain put out a statement responding to these